again, everyone. So I am here for my kind of end of the year wrap up. I'm hoping to do a couple little wrap up videos, hopefully before the year ends, although I'm running out of time a little bit. Today my plan is to do the Standout decks of 2022 for me. So I accumulated more decks this year than I ever have, and there was a lot of really exciting ones. It was really hard to choose, but I have almost 10, I think. I'm not sure how many I have, but a lot to go through, a lot I want to sort of shine the spotlight on that were totally mind-blowing, totally life-changing. Let's get started with the first one, which is new to me, and that is the Canter G Oracle. I talked about it in my last video, and since then I've been working with it according to the weekly sort of project that's going on. So this book is very detailed and very well written, filled with lots of information, and it suggests that you can start working with this deck on a weekly basis, starting with the winter solstice. So on the winter solstice I started, and it basically wants you to choose the first card, starting with the one that's numbered 1, and move all the way through to 52 over the course of a year, from one winter solstice to the other. And we're on the second one right now. I think all the cards are shuffled into the deck right now. But my plan, I think, is to keep the card of the week in the future separate from the rest of the deck and have it up somewhere where I can see it throughout the week and sort of reflect on it. So this deck is very new. It is by the person who created the Luminous Void Tarot, but this is a mass market deck. And I have to say that I don't think there has been any oracle in at least the mass market sphere that has felt so innovative and exciting and novel and needed in the mass market sort of domain of things this year, at least as far as I'm concerned. I feel like what this deck is doing is filling a space that I think is missing, and it's not gimmicky, you know? I mean, it's themed ecologically, which is amazing, but there isn't anything really gimmicky about the way this deck is set up. It's very genuine and profound. Not to say that gimmicky is a bad thing, of course, or that other decks didn't come out that were oracles mass market that weren't amazing. I just feel like this one is so special. It's round, the art style is so natural and refreshing. It's really, really exceptional, and it is really, like, you know, the longer you look at each of these paintings, the more you sort of see, and I think that's useful. I love a deck with beautiful art that also, you know, has more to it than meets the eye, you know? So this deck, although I only got it, I think at the beginning of this month, right before the winter solstice, I just know it's going to be, throughout all of 2023, an inseparable companion for me, and I'm really looking forward to spending a lot of time and spending a week with each and every one of these images, because they're just so special and they really do deserve that attention. I feel like it is a deck worthy of that kind of commitment and study. So yes, the Canter G Oracle is absolutely one of my standout decks of the year, despite its newness to me. Up next, I have another one that is, I think, definitely made a big splash this year in the tarot world, and that is the Ritual Tarot. I believe it released this year, and it deserves all of the praise it gets. It really does. And this year, I think I really sort of entered my collage tarot phase, which has never ended, and I don't think ever will end. And this is a really exceptional example of collage tarot that is just so effective, so intentional, compositionally. Like the artwork is beautiful. It's busy, but it's not busy. It's very intentional. I think I've said that before, but it's just so intentional, and I love the usage of these sort of National Geographic landscapes combined with these ancient artifacts. It's just a beautiful conglomeration of a lot of things that I love, and sort of taking these ancient beautiful pieces of art, a lot of which you don't really, you know, pay attention to on a daily basis, maybe as closely as you should. Like, I think sometimes it's easy to forget that these statues are so powerful and so incredible that it's just amazing to have this sort of opportunity to devote more time to looking at them. I mean, how often, unless you're an archaeologist or a you know, hobbyist who's very into this sort of thing, are you spending really looking at these statues and like thinking about the cultures that crafted them, and thinking about where they came from, and the spiritual connotations that many of them have, and just the incredible skill that went into them. I just really appreciate having an opportunity to look at it like this. And it's collage, which is a very modern art form, so it's like this beautiful combination of the old and the new, and it just feels so authentic and intuitive. It just feels so natural to work with and to read with. And I really love the lack of titles as well. I've said that before. I think it is a wonderful way to sort of deepen your bond with the deck, is just like knowing it by sight. It's not very difficult to do. I know some people don't prefer that, but I really, really appreciate it. And this is a standout deck. I mean, I could go on and on about it forever. I think it's just great. It really deserves all the praise that it gets and more. And I hope I think it really is sort of cemented as a classic tarot, up with the ranks of a number of other decks that I feel like people come back to year after year. It's not going to fade. Its position in the spotlight is not going to fade, because it really is exceptional what it's doing. So it is most definitely a standout deck for me. I should mention that these are not necessarily decks that released this year, just ones that I got this year, although many of them I'm pretty sure were released this year, but that's not really, you know, the basis by which I'm judging. More just like which ones are new to me personally. And the next one I want to talk about is maybe a little bit obvious if you know me, but it's the Memento Mori Tarot, or Oracle, what am I saying? This deck is, I got it this year, but I got it in like January or February, so I spent a long time with it, and it feels like such an old friend. Mine is huge. I have every expansion here except for the Timing and the Ancestor expansions, which I keep separately, and the general, the first general expansion. And I have that one on its way to me, so I think, I don't know, maybe I'll make a video about customizing it, you know, going through the cards and choosing the ones that I want, and sort of, or maybe making multiple versions of the deck, because at that point it might be a little too big to handle like this. It's certainly handleable like this. I know it looks huge, but I like I've said before, I have bigger hands, so it's not really an issue for me, and it works for me. I've edged this deck, by the way, in Antique Linen, the Distress ink by oh my gosh, I don't remember the creator or the name of the brand, but it's the Distress inks in Antique Linen. Yeah, this deck is awesome. I really, you know, it's not for everyone, but this really works for me, regardless of the fact that there are no keywords and there's just an object. I find that to be very adaptable. I know some people are picky about keywords, and I think a deck like this really gives you the opportunity to, you know, customize and come up with your own meanings. And like I've said before, form that really, really close bond with this deck, you know? So this deck is just an amazing all-purpose deck for me. I've had some really profound experiences with it. It's like my main bitch. It's my number one. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because there's so many beautiful decks that I have and love, but this one is just so comfortable to use for me. And I think I'd like to make a video about this at some point. I probably will next year at some point when I have a better grasp on what I would like to say about it. But I would like to make a video on how I use these sorts of decks, meaning, well, this one maybe is a sort of a standout example, but decks that are just have objects. This is, you know, partially a Lenormand. So Lenormand style decks, fortune telling style decks. I'd love to make a video talking about my quick and dirty method for reading those cards and learning those cards, because often decks like this come with very simple and short meanings. Like another example is the carrot cards, which I love. I'm gonna use those as probably my main example if I make a video like that, because it's like a fortune telling style deck with really simple objects on the cards that you can use to not necessarily fortune tell, but, you know, use for divination. And since there are so many different styles of that kind of deck, I have a kind of a similar method for learning them and getting to know them that I think would be interesting. So if you're interested in something like that, definitely let me know, because I'd love to make a video like that, talking about, you know, reading with those decks, learning to read with them, how you can do it quickly and easily and sort of apply the same methods for almost all of them. You know, Lenormand is a little bit different, so maybe not the best example, but definitely something like the carrot cards are going to be sort of along those lines. Here is my little gravestone card. It's my custom headstone card. I won this in a raffle, but actually today, Claire Goodchild on her Patreon sent out a notification that she's going to be making custom headstone cards for people who want them, who are on her Patreon. You can commission one basically from her, and there are limited slots, but it is now something that's going to be more widely available, which is amazing, because it is just the best way to personalize the deck. Like, there just isn't any better way. Anyway, I've been rambling about this deck for far too long. I think it's clear to you now why I think this deck is so special. It's so personal, and I can't believe I only got it this year, because it just feels like one of those things I've had around for a really long time, and I will have for much longer. It's very familiar, so I'm very happy to have it in my collection. It is most certainly a highlight of this year in terms of new decks I've acquired. Up next, I have such a special oracle. This is the Hellenic Oracle by Thea at Garden Goddess Tarot, who is just very sweet and wonderful and awesome, and I'm so happy that she made this available to everyone, because it is just amazing. And here's my little guidebook that I'm working on. I haven't made much progress on it since I last made my video. I've added a couple of entries, but I definitely want to, next time I bring it up, I'll hopefully have more entries that I can show you for my kind of personal meanings that I'm developing, just as general guidelines, but I'm sure many of you have seen this deck and know it well. It is incredible. It came out this year, I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong about that, but it is so awesome. This is a Make Playing Cards deck. There is an expansion now that's out that I have not picked up yet, that I need to, because me and my friend are working sort of on this joint meaning project together, writing out our own meanings and kind of comparing what our meanings are for, these are all, you know, figures, places, gods, humans from the Greek pantheon. And the expansion is just more of that. It's like 55 new cards. So I am dying to get my hands on that. I'm definitely gonna do my best to pick it up in the new year for me and my friend, so that we can keep working on it together. And this is another deck that just feels so chock full of content and information, and it's just so much fun to work with, to research. It is a deck that is, you know, obviously maybe a bit more of a challenge, but that is not really a problem for me, because I am one of those people who, like, when I'm sitting down to do a reading, you know, I'll have like my decks where I'm like, I'm literally gonna sit down for like 3 minutes and do a reading, but other times I'm like, I need to do, like, I want to do the full thing. Like, I want to do a complicated spread, and I want to use cards that make me work for them, to understand them. And that is just as fun to me. It's just an opportunity to spend more time with my cards and to deepen my understanding of not only divination and the way I read these cards, but also of the Greek pantheon at the same time. So it's just amazing. And Thea is very rad and a cool person, and put a lot of love and work into this deck. So I really I really recommend it. I can't really recommend it enough, honestly. It is really wonderful. So this is the Hellenic Oracle, a standout deck for me for sure. Next is another certified Nina classic on my channel, and it is the Goblins and Gardens Tarot. I've talked about it so many times, but it's so good. It's so incredible. It is such a great amalgamation of a number of my interests, and definitely essential. I haven't picked it up in some time, but that's just because I've been getting a lot of new and exciting decks in recently. So it's, well, not recently, you know, in the last couple of months. So it's stagnated in use, but that's just simply because it's been busy. I'm not sure what to say about this deck other than what I've already said, but it's a combination of first edition D&D illustrations and vintage gardening encyclopedias. Love D&D, I love gardening, I love plants, and this is just such a humorous, wholesome take on the tarot that just makes me really happy. I really love the zine-like, the homemade quality of this, and it's a collage deck that I love. I love a collage deck that takes a really unique angle, much like the Ritual Tarot. I appreciate collage decks of all kinds, but when they have such an aesthetic and or thematic theme like this, it's just really, really fun and wonderful. And so I'm just so grateful to have this deck. It has the best cardstock and the nicest gilding, this beautiful mirror finish gold gilding, literally can blind you with it, and linen finish cardstock, the perfect size. It's a little bit bigger, maybe just a little bit wider, I would say, than the standard tarot card, but just so perfect for me, and I just love it, and I'm so happy to have it. Another one I picked up this year, and I'm just so pleased to have, and I'm sure it's going to be a long-time friend for me as well. That's the Goblins and Gardens Tarot. Okay, so this is one that is also really special to me. It's the Mysteries of the Black Madonna. I picked this up sometime over the summer, and I also have the Mysteries of Mary deck, and I love them both. But this one, I think, has just been really shining recently for me. I really appreciate its existence. Oh wait, why is this all messed up? Oh, here. That's there. This deck is by Hetien Grobler in South Africa. And truly, you can just feel, I think before I had it, seeing this deck online, I could really feel the power and love in its creation, that went into its creation, emanating from it. It just looks powerful. It looks just incredible, and I'm so glad to have it, because this is really something that even if I wasn't a tarot user, I would fall in love with as just a collector's item. But I am a tarot user, and it's just so beautiful to use. It's just a joy and a pleasure to use, and so is the Mysteries of Mary Tarot. I really adore them both, and it is expensive. To me, I didn't feel like it felt important. It didn't feel like I was like wasting my money and getting in. And I know that most of the cost, about 50% of the cost or something crazy like that, is shipping, just shipping from South Africa. South Africa, shipping worldwide is very expensive, but to me, it was more than worth it to pay for shipping, to support this incredible independent artist who's doing something so unique and special, creating these shrines, these altars, and photographing them. It's just so beautifully handcrafted. I just really value this artistic perspective, and I'm just so grateful that it exists, and I'm so happy to have it. And like I said, as well as the Mysteries of Mary. But I don't know, I felt like picking this one for my standout decks. I think maybe just because it's winter, it's the dark side half of the year, and the Mysteries of Mary feels more appropriate to use in the spring and the summer. Just how I feel. Another thing this deck makes me think about is I had the most brilliant idea for a video, which is to make outfits inspired by tarot decks, because I get so much I've said that before. I get so much inspiration from these images, the black and the gold, for outfits. I don't think I've ever actively like pulled a card and tried to make an outfit based off of it, but I think it would be a really fun video actually to like make some outfits inspired by different tarot decks I have, because it is something I think about. It's like how I imagine the quintessential typified reader of this deck, like how would they look, you know? It is something I sort of fantasize about, and I think it would be really fun to make outfits based off of cards. I wonder if that's been done before. If it hasn't, I might do it. I might do it in 2023. We'll see. Anyway, this is exceptional. I think that's clear from the just beautiful effort that went into crafting it. And it is a standout. All right, I just want to mention this one quickly because it has brought me so much joy this year. And this is the Clown Town Tarot in a tin, as you can see. I also have the Clown Town playing cards in here, which are these. The tin comes with the tarot, and I bought the tin tarot as well as the playing cards, and there's room in here, as you can see, for both. I would really, at some point, I'm going to line the box more properly with like project board or foam core or something, so that they are held in place a little bit nicer than this plastic insert, but it served me perfectly well thus far. This deck makes me so happy. For a long time I was carrying it in my bag and it chipped a little bit, so I stopped doing that but it was like my everyday, like take everywhere deck of cards for a long time. It replaced the Barbara Walker for a long time, but I've gone back to the Barbara Walker in my bag because I'm scared of damaging this further. Maybe I'll move it into a different thing for travel, but anyway, this deck is the best. I love, this is by Clown Monger on Instagram, and all of her decks are amazing. I have the Tarotino Arlecchino, or the Augmented Arcana, which is a full Marseille style deck, and I'm also going to pick up very soon the Anecdotes Tarot Pocket Edition that she released, which I'm very excited for. I'm just obsessed with this artist. I think her art is incredible and whimsical, and this is a really beautiful and interesting deck because it is Marseille. It is styled after Marseille, but it has illustrated pips. Oh, this is all flipped upside down. It has illustrated pips, which is just really fun because it means you don't really get any of that Rider-Waite-Smith influence. And I think that results in a lot of really novel and wonderful illustrations that are just so much fun to use and play with. And they just make me so happy to look at. Love a clown. Every suit is a different kind of clown. So we've got like the Pierrot traditional, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, traditional clowns. In cups, we've got batons is tramp clowns. Let's see, and then swords. Oh yeah, and the coins are Western clowns. And I just love, you can tell that a lot of like love and care went into these drawings, and they're so wonderful and whimsical. And I can't wait to pick up the Anecdotes Tarot from the same creator because I think she's so talented, and this deck is such a favorite. It feels really comfortable and safe, and it's like kind of a hug deck for me, honestly. So I really recommend it. It's certainly one that stands out in my collection. It's one of my favorites. I think about it, you know, as a favorite anytime someone asks me what my favorite is, so it has to be included here. Next, I have the Dirt Gems Oracle. So this deck is a standout because I just think I think there's a recurring theme here of I enjoy decks that allow you to sort of overlay your own personal gnosis and interpretations over decks. That's the case with Memento Mori and with the Hellenic Oracle. And it is something I really appreciate, but this deck has the an incredible guidebook that comes with it. The guidebook is so good, and if you feel sort of intimidated by plant decks and by getting into sort of plant oracles like this that have, you know, just the name of the plant and not much more information, I think that the Dirt Gems is a really great way to venture into that world, because there is really amazing examples of how to apply like the practical properties of a plant into a sort of divinatory or plant spirit context, and the book is so good for that. It's, you know, a great way for you to learn and sort of start forming your own connections with these plants if you so desire, or just use it as an incredibly good oracle deck that you can learn a lot from. And these images, you know, are really evocative, and I think really make it easy to make the connections between the plant and its sort of general greater meaning. Like this Elder illustration, I feel like really gets across how I imagine it to be. How I imagine like the spirit of the Elder to be in a divinatory or just in a general context. So I really love this deck. I'm really happy I have it, and I'm generally like, I spent a long time looking for like the perfect plant oracle. I have the Herb Crafter's Tarot, which I love, but in terms of oracles, I felt that, I don't know, a lot of them were very similar, and I think this one, I really love like the folk art style and the additional illustrations beyond just the illustration of the plant. For this kind of thing, I think it's very user-friendly for someone who might not understand or be as familiar with many of these plants, but it's just so good, and the production quality is amazing. This is the new edition with the box that isn't all messed up, so that's nice. It has these backs, which are, I don't know, I like them about the same, I'd say, as the first edition. They're different, but not in a bad way. So I'm very pleased with this purchase. I'm happy I got it, and I'm going to keep using it, especially, I've shown this before, paired with the Botanica Tarot. That's just like the perfect match made in heaven for plant people, so definitely recommend it. All right, just two more here. The second to last one I want to talk about is the Sacred Symbols Oracle, which existed as an indie deck for some time before this year, but came out this year in mass market form, which is what finally convinced me to pick it up, and I'm so glad that I did, because it is the best. So I mentioned earlier that, you know, sometimes I'm in the mood for a 3-minute reading when I spend like 2 seconds looking at the cards, or where I just really want that sort of instant advice or message, and sometimes I want something more in-depth and complicated. I think this deck could be used for both, and I have used it for both in a kind of a more meditative, contemplative context, but I have also used it a lot for those sort of quick readings. It is so good for that. As you can see, it is very straight to the point. It is very clear. I think the art is really beautiful, and again, like, it feels very authentic, and I really love the sort of line variation and the sort of imperfection. It's something I've really embraced this year in art in general, I think, and I just really appreciate it. So I don't know, I'm just really happy I have it. It is so useful. I use it all the time because it goes with everything. You know, I say that about the Memento Mori too, but this one has the advantage of being even easier. You know, you don't have to think about it, and you certainly can, and I think you certainly, like, these keywords are expansive and widely applicable. It's just an amazing, super, super practical, super useful deck. I think this fills the space that a lot of Oracle decks might fill that I do not have and will not get, because I have something like this that I feel like is so widely applicable. I feel like you could use this in ritual really effectively. You have all of these really helpful cards with protective, with symbols on them. You can see that I think you could really use in a lot of different contexts. So I'm just really happy to have it. It's wonderful quality. And Marcella Kroll, I think, is a really intelligent and thoughtful person, and put a lot of really careful thought into each and every one of these cards, and I'm just really thrilled to have it. So that's the Sacred Symbols Oracle. Love it so much. And finally, I have the magnum opus in my collection, the deck that I feel I was most thrilled to receive this year. It was a deck I pre-ordered months in advance and was just waiting with bated breath for it to arrive. And when it did arrive, it was everything I hoped it would be, and it was just amazing. And that is the Slavic Legends Tarot by Taroteca Studios. So I didn't really have much interest in many decks by Taroteca Studios, like not profound interest before this one, but when they announced this one, I was like, I know this is for me. I just know. And I think it's, I don't know, I've waxed poetic about it much before in the past, but it's my culture, and that's exciting to me. And I'm even more excited that beyond just being my culture, the art is exceptional and so unique, and it's exactly what I want it to be. It's just exactly how I imagined like a deck, I would want a deck like this to look, really. It's just perfect. It's just perfect. It has the, again, like really, really raw connected feeling to the myths that it talks about. It doesn't come with a guidebook yet, but I know Taroteca Studios is working on a guidebook that, for people who don't know, explains a lot of the myths and symbols from Slavic folklore that are going on in this deck, of which there are a lot. So I'm really excited for that. If you're, wanting to learn more about this deck, Polish Folk Witch on YouTube made an excellent video going through it. It's like the must watch if you have this deck, because she has a really deep knowledge of almost everything that's going on. And so she is a really useful resource to consult while we wait for that guidebook to come out. And I really don't feel that I need it. It's not something I need, but it is something that'll be really nice, and it'll be really fun to sort of, pick up on all the secrets that I've missed out on. And it is a very readable deck. It is very readable, and that is really something I was kind of afraid of, is that it would be too like pretty and perfect, and I would feel kind of intimidated by it. But that is not the case. It is just good. It's very readable, and yet not sort of cookie cutter RWS. I mean, it is RWS, but it's not boring. It's certainly not a clone. I mean, you can see this art is just incredible. So it is my greatest love, I think, maybe from this year. It's hard to say, but I really appreciate this one. So the Slavic Legends Tarot is certainly a standout. Oh, by the way, this is the glossy edition, which they have two editions. They have a matte, I forget if it's rose petal finish. They have a matte edition with black edges and different backs, and a glossy edition with these backs and matte gold edges, so they're very comfortable. And I ended up choosing this one simply because it is, I felt like it would be easier to shuffle, and it is a very quality gloss. Like it does enrich like the darks of the cards, I feel. So it does not feel cheap. It's not distracting for me personally to have the gloss. I think it's really, I don't know, I think it's perfect as it is. So I really have not a single complaint about it. So happy to have it. All right, so that is my standout decks for the year. There was a lot of good ones this year, and I already know, like, there's a bunch of decks that I already have on my list that I know are coming out next year that I can't wait to get and explore, but I'll have a video coming out hopefully soon talking about some of my plans for the year in terms of deck use. There are plenty of decks that I already have that I want to work more with and that I want to do more stuff with, so I'll be sure to talk about that very soon. And I'm appreciative of you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found some inspiration. As a note, you should use this as an excuse to really think about the decks that you picked up this year, if you did pick up any, and kind of show your appreciation for them. These are my standout decks, but obviously everyone is different, and everyone has different things that they value and look for in terms of their divination decks. So I'm certainly not saying you need to buy these or you're missing out or anything. They're really my favorites, and I'm really grateful for them, and I love seeing what other people's standout decks of the year are too. So if you agree or disagree or have your own picks that you'd like to share, I would love to hear from you down below if you want to let me know. And I really appreciate you for watching and for hanging out, and I hope you have a wonderful day.